What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down how wide receivers can stop getting jammed off the line of scrimmage. So we're going to be showing some examples of wide receivers getting jammed, and then we're going to show, kind of pick apart what they did wrong and show some positive examples and some good examples of wide receivers in the exact same situation and how they were able to beat that coverage. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it teaches you a few things just about releases and how a DB is going to play you off the line. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you want to train with myself or train with my staff of coaches this offseason, I myself and my staff will be coming out to 3 more states this offseason for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. So next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Nashville, Tennessee. Then we're going out to Salt Lake City, Utah, and then we'll be finishing it off in Los Angeles, California. So if you guys want some more information on that, would like to travel out or are local to those cities, check out that very first link in the description below, you guys. We'd love to have you out to one of our camps. Let's get started. So this is the situation that everybody's afraid of, right? A physical DB, I'm coming up the line, he gets right into my frame and jams me, right? So there's a couple things that you got to do. I'm going to play this full speed. So this is an easy fix here by this wide receiver. He needs to, number one, have a plan. You got to have a plan for not only your hands, but also with your feet, and he needs a better pad level. Those are the 2 main things that are going to help you beat a physical DB. You got to make sure that you're doing 2 things. You're reading how he is going to play you. You're reading his body language. You're reading if he's slightly leaning forward, looking like he's maybe going to backpedal out of there. You have to be able to read his body language to come up with your plan. Because you come up to the line and he's right here in your face and he's going to be aggressive. You can't just try to do stuff with your hands. Because if your feet don't move and your feet stay stuck in the ground, that DB is not going to move. And if you're just moving your feet, but your hands go dead and your hands drop to your side, that's when the DB is also going to win, because he's just going to be able to get hands and knock you off this route. But more importantly, fellas, you got to have a good pad level. The low man in football, you guys are probably taught this when you were 7 years old. Low man is going to win in football. So when you guys come up to the line and this DB is in this low explosive position and you're standing up tall with your chest and your chest is up in the air, chances are he's probably going to have the upper hand. So when this snap of the ball starts, you see how this wide receiver doesn't do much with his feet. He immediately tries to hand fight. You guys got to be able to combine both things, fellas. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But you got to be able to fight hands and you have to be able to work the feet off the line. Because if you're just trying to fight hands and you're not going anywhere and your feet get stuck, that's when this DB can win. And you see how his pad level is directly up in the air. Those are the things we want to avoid. You got to make sure that we have a plan and you got to make sure that you're not raising that pad level up. So let's play this thing again full speed, and then we'll show an example of Justin Jefferson being able to get off a physical jam with just his pad level, okay? So now, one of the key things, like I said, is that you want to try to read this DB's body language, right? So this DB's body language, what does it look like right here? He's got a nice wide base and his pad level is slightly leaning forward. So it probably looks like that he's going to try to get hands and he's going to try to be very physical. Now, the common release that a lot of people talk about is something called the step back release. Like there's a popular video of Jay Norvell at Arizona State talking about the step back release, where if he lunges, you step back, you avoid, and you get up into the route. Now, if you're in a situation like this, though, where it's a stack formation, what the hell do you do? Because if you back up and you take this step back, you're going to run into another receiver and screw up the entire play. So you got to make sure that you have a plan. Now, another thing, I talk a lot about reading body language. I want to show this other example real quick before we break this down of Jerry Jeudy and talking about the opposite end of the body language from a DB. So I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. Now, this DB doesn't get physical at all, right? But you look at his body language. He's got very skinny feet, and it looks like he is almost shifted backwards, if you will. This is the body language where it doesn't look like this DB is going to be physical and jam, and where he's probably going to kind of get into that motor technique where he backs up. So you would want to close the space as a wide receiver. You wouldn't need to do anything off the line like a step back, like a split release, or keep a good pad level and move forward. You would want to just attack him and get up into your route. Those are the 2 differences. This is the body language of somebody who's not going to be physical. And then this last clip right here is the body language of somebody who is going to be physical, okay? That's what you got to make sure that you understand about a DB's body language when he's going to jam. Now, let's talk about this. So stack formation, this DB goes to jam. But Justin Jefferson uses something called a split release, which is a great way to keep a good pad level off the line. So if he were to go here and he were to do this step back like everybody talks about, he'd run into that Thielen, right? Pretty clear. So when this DB's lunging, what Jefferson does is a split release, where essentially you split your feet, you get to a nice wide base, and you keep a good pad level. You bring your back foot up even with your front foot. Now, the split release isn't the sole release that you have to go with here, but it's a good one to get into a strong base and to get in a good pad level. Now, when you're in this good pad level, if this DB gets hands, you're not screwed. If you're like the DB in or the wide receiver in the last example, where your feet aren't moving, your hands aren't moving, and your chest pops up in the air, that's when you're in trouble. But when you guys can get your feet to move to set a trap, you guys can keep a good pad level, stay in a balanced spot, it is easier to shrug off this DB. Because when this DB lunges, fellas, you got to understand that he is leaving his base. His feet are trailing behind. So he's not in a balanced position. He's trying to get as physical as possible and pretty much shock you off the line. So if we could keep a good base, I could keep a good pad level, this is not a position that worries me. I could just shrug the hands, fight the combat, and then be able to get up into the route. His sole purpose right there is to try to screw up timing on this stack. But if I can get off that press efficiently and quickly with a good pad level, good feet movement, and a plan with my hands, based off of reading his body language, that can get me open and that can get me off the press. The whole goal of press is to screw up timing, fellas. And if we could stop that DB from screwing up the timing, we should win every single time. Now, we're going to show one more example of a step back release when you're in open space, how to read a DB's body language, and then we're going to be showing how to beat a DB who jams you, who is a little bit more patient. So we're going to show this clip, and then we'll talk about a patient DB. So now, in this situation, first things first, got to read the body language, right? We talk a lot on this page, like a lot about reading, right? Like you got a DB who's inside shade, you got a DB who's head up, outside shade, we got to identify his shade, obviously. The body language is kind of like one of those things that's a given. You know, like you can tell that right away by a DB. So based off of this DB's body language, right? Strong base, kind of a slight lean forward, probably looks like he's going to be physical and jam, and he is right up on that line of scrimmage. So a release you can use when you are not in a stack formation or a bunch formation is a step back. So if you guys are following this page, you've probably seen this clip before, maybe once or twice, but this wide receiver does a great example of a step back release and being able to get up into this route. Now, a lot of people will ask me about this step back, like, hey, when's the best time to use it? And it's when you can read this guy's body language the best. When you're not in a stack formation, he's in a wider base, his pad level is slightly leaning forward. It looks like he's going to be real physical. If you step back and avoid and you create this space for you, you can easily just get up into this route. Let's play this thing again full speed. I just wanted to show this example to show you guys how that step back would look if you got that guy who's right up on the line about to get physical. Let's play it again full speed. Great job using that step back and just getting up into this route. Maybe he could have got up into the route a little bit quicker, but ultimately created space for himself and bought him some time. So now, what if you have a DB who's maybe and again, so we're looking at his body language. He's a little bit slightly leaning forward. He's in a wide base, but you have some space with him. He's not right up on the line. It doesn't look like he's going to necessarily lunge at you, right? He's in a little bit more of a neutral balance position, if you will. So this wide receiver ends up getting jammed to the sideline, like squeezed to the sideline, if you will. So let's play this thing full speed. So he goes to attack this DB's leverage. He's running a fade. But again, this DB's physical and is able to reroute him. I know the clip cuts off, but you see how far he reroutes him from the numbers. That is obviously not where we want to be. Pre-snap, he started at the top, like the middle of the numbers, and he's maybe 2-3 yards towards the sideline. That's not enough space for that QB to throw you open. Just fact of the matter. Now, when he comes off of here, one of the key mistakes he made, we talked a little bit about it, is having a plan for not only your hands, but you got to have a plan for your feet. And you got to know the mechanics of the feet to make this DB move. Because a disciplined DB is going to be watching your hips. So if you guys come off the line and you're going lateral, your movement is side to side, this DB is just going to stay square and shuffle with you and then be able to get hands and reroute. And you're going to have to force a release. But to get this DB to open up, to not even necessarily open up, but to keep his leverage, right? To actually move, to actually be able to get a tight angle on him, you have to threaten him vertically. You got to step at almost like a 45-degree angle. But when you guys operate behind the line of scrimmage and you guys go lateral, that DB is just going to stay patient. He's going to stay with his kick step and he is not going to move. To get him to overreact, instead of going lateral, let's attack him here. Let's attack at a 45. Let's actually get into that leverage, because the whole reason he's inside shade in the first place is to protect the inside. So let's make sure we attack him on that almost 45-degree angle to move him off the platform to avoid that patient DB jam and squeeze to the sideline. Now we're going to show an example after this of DK Metcalf going up against Patrick Peterson and how he was able to create space. Let's play this thing again full speed. Fellas, make sure we don't go lateral. If that DB is patient with his jam, he will squeeze you all the way to that sideline if we don't force him off of that thing. Okay, so now Metcalf here is lined up on the bottom of the numbers, not even the middle of the numbers, and he's still able to get more space simply because of the way he attacks this DB's leverage. So when he comes off the line, he's still running a fade ball. You see how much he gets into the leverage, how he steps on that 45, and how he's able to get up into this route. That is textbook right there in terms of the release. Same concept, inside shade. DB's probably in a little bit skinnier of a stance than the last one, but when he came off the line, if he would have gone just lateral, DB would have just stayed patient and shuffled. To get this DB to actually move, to actually get him to jump to the inside, I got to make it look like I'm going to the inside. I actually got to step outside of his frame. I got to throw my upper half into it. I can't be operating at a 90 degree. I got to be operating at a 45. Let's actually threaten him like I'm trying to cross his face. Fellas, you got to understand a DB will not move if I don't make him move. A DB will not bite to the inside if I don't give him every indication that I'm going inside with my release. Let's actually commit the hips and shoulders. Let's actually step outside the frame and throw my hip into the break, because that is what will get him off that platform, and that can create more space for me back to the outside. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Metcalf beating a more patient DB, threatening him to the inside, and actually attacking leverage on a 45-degree angle, not going flat. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you'd like to come train with us this offseason, we are traveling out to Nashville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, and then Los Angeles, California, all in the month of July. So check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to get you out to one of our camps. I'll see you guys next time.